Okay. And so he just transitioned. Do you know more about like he was this media star and then what made him go into politics? Does he ever speak about that?
Fascinating. He's very critical of the state. That's when you get all the videos saying like, screw the state and, we don't need it. And
well, can I, actually, sorry to keep interrupting you. That's what I want to ask you, because from an American perspective, for someone who doesn't speak Spanish, some of the memes are so over the top where they're like showing like a picture of Milei looking kind of crazy, like with his hair up and everything. And the quote that it attributes to him is so provocative that you're wondering, is this an accurate? So one in particular, it'll show like I've seen the meme, I'm sure you've seen these, Aaron, where it'll show one US politician like Elizabeth Warren or something wanting to expand the government. And then it'll show Milei, and the quote it attributes to him is like, I wipe my backside with the state, and he doesn't say my backside. So like, he says things like that.
In Spanish, it's even more strident than what you just said. Like the translation would never, and then the tone that he gets from the Argentinian culture and the meaning and the inflection points that he uses could never be translated. That's what I'm telling you guys. You really need to learn Spanish just to enjoy that part. There's some videos, because he has a bunch of videos. There was one guy that made a compendium of those type of videos, 15 hours straight, Milei talking about economics, politics, nonstop. And when he does those over the top, in Spanish, it's even more. Like, it's just, that's why he was wild. But that's what made him so famous, because he was just wild. And people in Argentina like that. In general, if you want people excited about voting, this is something libertarians have to get. If you want people voting, you need to get them excited. And I think I shared a quote from Burke a couple of days ago on Twitter saying, hey, guys, this is about, it's not a politics and communication in this case have to aim not at human reasoning only, but to human nature. Human nature includes reasoning, but there's just much more than that. So we have to aim at there's people's sentiments, hopes, views of the future. And that's what he did. For example, when he was talking about why we should vote libertarian, it wasn't just, well, it's more efficient, to let prices, not controlling prices is more efficient than controlling because there's going to be some type of shortage or whatever. No, because it is immoral. And it happens to also be not productive at all. And then he starts going like, we're superior morally, we're superior technically, we're superior politically, we're superior aesthetically. He cares a lot about, if you guys notice, he cares a lot about the way he looks. And then his whole cabinet, it's expected to always look good because the image also matters. So we're aiming at making connection with people intellectually, aesthetically, and emotionally. And that's why he was so just imagine talking about Bombaverk and Menger. And then after that saying, yeah, you know what, those politicians in charge, they are taking advantage of you. And you have to go earn money. They just print it out so they can just go buy whatever they want and buy the votes that they want. That's why your living standards have been going down since 2011. At the same time that he's actually explaining Austrian business cycle theory, everything at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I had derailed you again. You were explaining the transition that he made, like from being media star to when did he actually jump into power.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So as he was criticizing, he was coming on to be very popular and all that. He got to the point that one of the politicians, and it looks like he was the former vice president, and she was Kirchner. She was president 2 terms ago, and she was the vice president 1 term ago. And they just got tired, and they were saying like, why are you criticizing us? You have never done anything at all. If you really want to change things, you should actually make your own party and win an election. Until then, just shut up. And he made a party.
So those are very fateful words.
Yeah.
He sort of like, I don't know if you know it, but that's apparently Obama. I think it was like a White House Correspondents' Dinner where Obama told Trump, like, why don't you run for president?
Yeah, identical.
Like, okay, yeah.
But imagine that he was the president saying that. The president in turn was saying like, can you guys just shut up? You've never done anything. And then later on it says, well, if you have so many complaints, why don't you make your own party and win elections? And
okay, so that's an interesting thing too. It's like with the example of Trump ran as a Republican and won as an outsider. But Milei, he formed his own party and then...
Yes. In Latin America, right now, the ones that I'm very informed, which will be in Mexico, because my family is from Mexico, and in Argentina, because I've been following Well, because every macroeconomist has to follow Argentina, whether we like it or not. Like that, I've been telling all the macroeconomists for long, and I follow a lot because of soccer. I have a lot of connections. One of the, I guess, you guys understand why I'm so follow. For example, in the summers, I only follow when it comes to like Olympics, following the World Cup, and all that kind of stuff. I follow Argentinian media because I find it fun. Because in Argentina, you guys understand this was interested in Argentina. Argentina is the only place I've seen where sports shows, no matter what, at some point they'll talk about politics. Sometimes even about monetary policy. That I'm kidding you not. So I've actually heard them say, "Hey, do you know why prices don't rise in Uruguay, but here in Argentina they rise all the time?" Because Uruguay is very similar culturally to Argentina in a soccer talk show. So for me, it's kind of fun to be, I'm on the podcast listening to what happened in the World Cup, and then they switch a little bit to politics, a little bit to economics, and then switch back to economics. So every single summer, I'm always listening to Argentina, because you don't see that in Mexico. Mexican media, you never see that. Spanish-speaking media in the United States, you almost never see that in sports. The only place that I have seen that very often in Argentina. It's just part of the culture. You always talk politics, you always talk economics, you always talk monetary policy.
Okay, so that is interesting. So he forms his own party and then builds up support.
And on top of that, he forms his own party because in Latin America, for some reason that it's still not clear, thing has to do with the rules. It's very easy to make your own party. It's not like he doesn't have you don't have the restrictions. Here, you don't have the restrictions there. So right now, all throughout Latin America, if you notice, even in Spain, the same, the parties that are winning right now are a completely different name than the parties that were winning 10 years ago. The party system switches either because they do coalitions or because they create a new party. But many times you see they're the same guys, they're just making a new party because, they got split or whatever it is. So he makes his own party because he doesn't really need a super formal structure. People just follow him and then they make their own party. And the interesting thing is that a lot of people were not really well versed in political practice. So almost when you talk about if you look at his cabinet, there's a bunch of academic economists. And so they were literally learning how to do politics as they go. So that's why he was always rocky and all that. But his personality pushed the whole movement up, where people were saying, okay, yeah, they make mistakes here and there, but it's fine. We'll try to figure it out. So one of the most important ones for a lot of our listeners is Milei was really, really critical of the current Pope. And he actually ended up talking to the Pope later on. He took back his comments. But all the mistakes that could have been done, there were always sometimes okay, we can fix them. Okay. And a lot had to do with the fact that people like his personality. He attracts a lot of people. They'll give him time. That's one of the interesting things about, I don't think any other libertarian or any other politician could have getting to the presidency and tell everyone, guys, for 2 years, we're going to have a deep recession as we're switching from softer to a little bit harder. And then it was not everyone, but 57% of the voters were saying, let's go for it. That's it. We need it. Now, the ones that cry out loud in Twitter are the ones that didn't vote for him, right? So try to see that the people complaining are part of the 43%. People that don't complain are part of the 57 that say, yes, we need this because it has been crazy since at least 2011. It has been crazy. So he wins, he makes his party, makes the movement going. He gets a cup the first time. And for some of the ones that are religious of your audience are going to love this one. He wins the first round where he becomes a House representative or he gets involved at all. He only wins 2 spots in Congress. That's all. And so people were making fun of him saying hey, what the heck? You guys are not going to do anything. Okay, yeah, you formed your party, but you guys are not going to do anything because you guys are only 2. It's not going to make a difference. And he quotes the Bible. He quotes, Maccabees. And he says, the victory is not given by the amount of soldiers that you have, but by the forces that come from heaven. And then from that phrase, they made it a meme using Goku, which Goku is very famous among young people. And every single time someone would agree on something with Milei or with libertarians, they would immediately come up with a meme of Goku saying, "Oh, welcome to the forces of heaven." And then from then on, the whole movement is the forces of heaven. Milei's movement switched from being a libertarian movement to be the movement that is the forces of heaven. You want to join? You're not joining the Libertarian Party. You were, obviously, right? But what you're really joining is the forces of heaven. So they took advantage of every single little thing that you can imagine to turn it into a meme and then give him even more exposure to the ideas, to the movement. They use absolutely every single little detail that you can imagine to try to attract people. And guess what? It worked.
And I guess in the beginning, he probably had a lot of people who were not being paid that were just online pushing his stuff because they thought he was
everything's like that. The whole campaign, we actually make the jokes. Hey, we got we put a precedent through Twitter. It's everyone that is pushing him and making him famous and supporting him. It's just a bunch of people completely independent of his movement. They just like him and they just go on Twitter and start talking about Milei. There was literally no money at all spent on promotion. Everything was online. Everything was extremely organic. That's one of the things that was very frustrating for the anti-libertarians in Argentina, is that everything was organic and decentralized. You couldn't go to a place and say, okay, we push this one guy, he's going to actually start making the other ones start quiet, which that happens in Argentina a lot, but just so you guys know that. It was almost impossible because you have a bunch of anonymous people. If one person quiets up, the other one starts popping out. There were some think tanks that were helping him also through that, but it was really just promotion of his ideas. He really didn't have to pay anyone for anything, precisely because of his personality. A lot of people that were libertarians and many that were not considered themselves libertarians, they would still trust him and they would actually, for him, will give him. Now, another thing that is very important, this has happened to some people. He's very active right now, less than before, but obvious, right? When someone will say something positive on Twitter or in any other social media platform, to go through and read the positive things that people were saying about him, liking them, and whenever he could, even retweet, because this is one of the problems that a lot of people online, and it's just a human nature. Usually famous people tend to pay way too much attention to the negatives. And then they debate against it and whatever they respond. I mean, he does respond, right? But whatever it is, first, praise your people that are helping you. People that are helping you, hey, you're going to go get the like, you're going to get the retweet. That excites people, that makes them more feel like, hey, this is actually going to work and whatever. So that gets even more people involved. And so it was like a chain reaction. One starts and then the other and then the other. And even today, when he has time, he'll go one by one. And when he sees positive things told about him, he'll like it and give retweet and share it. Sometimes share it from Twitter, share it on Instagram and the other platforms. He is very careful with his public image and his interaction with his fans, because he understands that the fans are really the ones that are going to give you the promotion that you really need, because it makes it more human. It doesn't look planned, so it looks very organic, and people absolutely love that. Because in Argentina, since everything is, the state controls everything in the life of Argentinians. This is very, very weird, because there's some parts where they're very flexible and some other parts where it's impossible to move unless you get a permission from Argentina. So even the politicians themselves look very programmed, almost like robots for the popular media. But the Milei movement, not just Milei himself, but the Milei movement looks so organic and so natural and so honest, just saying, yeah, we think we need change and he's the guy that can help us change things. That's it. And some people say, are you libertarian? Say, no, I don't know what that is, but the guy knows what he's talking about. So I'll just follow through and read through things.
So yeah, Aaron, I can speak from personal experience on that on Twitter, I believe he was at this point, he had won the election, but I don't know exactly when they get sworn in. So he may have been just elect at that point.
President-elect.
Yeah, but someone had posted a clip of an interview, and the point being, wow, look at how awesome this guy is and how radical he is, because it was a female interviewer and she was shocked by his answers, that kind of a deal. That was the point. But what I focused on was his outfit was hilarious. Like it was very futuristic looking. And to me, it looked like a Star Trek uniform. And so I retweeted it and said, not only do I like his political and economic views, but here Milei looks like the kind of guy that would defy a direct order from Starfleet, steal the Enterprise, and go rescue his best friend. And then Milei's account retweeted that. So I don't know if it was
him. It was him. It was him. Yeah, it was him.
And so
he actually goes and sees those things.
Yeah. So to your point, I was so surprised he did that, because it's a little bit of a tongue in cheek. And I, not only did I like him a lot more personally, but I screenshot that and shared it with like 20 people. Like, hey, look at this. Milei just retweeted me. So anyway, you're right. So if he's doing that day in and day out, that's very effective.
Multiply that by almost every single, or for example, sometimes he doesn't have the time. And what I've been noticing is the other cabinet members, the other ministers and secretaries, they go and do that. Like if a regular person posts something about economics, I remember one of my friends, Barbie, I think she lives in the United States, but she's Argentinian. As of the last couple of weeks, she's been doing summaries of what the Milei administration says in the morning so that people are very well informed in a summarized way. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good, Barbie. You're doing a really good job. Within a couple of days, some of the secretaries, some of the cabinet members liked it and started retweeting her summaries because the summaries were really good. So they're paying attention to what everyone is doing in their favor because this is the issue. The problem with social media is that naturally as humans, we focus on the negatives and we start responding to the negative. You notice that many times. But I don't know if it's a strategy or just the nature is no. Focus on the positive and let the positive over, as we're saying in economics, crowd out the negative. Because you overemphasize so much the positive, the little negatives, they look so small that it's like, yeah, sure, a bunch of people complain about silly little things, but who cares? Let's just move on. So that overemphasis on the positive, I think from what I see from outside, it gave him a lot of following. It made followers that are even more intense. Imagine, I'm an economist. I try to be not too excited about economics. So like, for example, in Bitcoin, it took me a time. I was holding myself from buying Bitcoin because I didn't want my owning Bitcoin interfering with my analysis. And then after, when I understood it, fine, I bought it. But I was trying to protect my emotions or my attitudes. You just can't do it with this one, okay? Because you're looking at the videos and it's everything we ever dream about multiplied by his bombastic personality. You have, like, literally, you get excited whether you like it or not. And they're really good. And I think that's why they won, because they're really good at overemphasizing the positives and talking to people's intellect, emotions, and aesthetic preferences. All of those three are going to matter. We're not monodimensional beings. We understand logic, we understand beauty, we understand emotions. We need to actually reach out to everyone. And that's what they've been doing. If he's not doing it, it's someone from his team that is reaching out to everyone. And that's something that I think is going to change the way we do politics and outreach, not just in Argentina, not just in Latin America, but I think it's going to change in the way that we see politics and reach out in the whole world, because we can just follow his example.
Hey, everybody, this is Bob Murphy. Thanks for listening to this clip from the InFi podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, please consider subscribing and share this video with others. We've got new episodes dropping every Friday with more insightful discussions. Stay tuned.